If 64 is considered too old to get a job, and if you do get one, your ceiling is becoming a greeter at Walmart, then why do we let them run our country? Make it make sense, guys.
Okay, I'll make it make sense. There's a few issues here. First, this reflects the class divide in America. There's millions more old people now in the workforce than there were a few decades ago. And many of them aren't wealthy people just clinging to their careers to continue to get rich and inhibiting younger people from advancing. But more on that later.
A pretty shocking report says 42% of Americans will retire, in essence, broke, with less than $10,000 stashed away, and 14% of those people will have zero stashed away.
Let's get into the Walmart greeter bit for a minute. A rapidly digitizing and automated workforce, coupled with an increased cost of living, makes it really hard for older people to stay afloat. Because it's more expensive to be alive, if they're on a fixed income or Social Security, if that's already insufficient, they're going to need to turn to work. But because of how our workforce operates now, it's not always easy for them to find a job, so that results in many of them being Walmart greeters or Uber drivers, entering into the gig economy or other insufficiently paid hourly work.
A new report from PwC says that only 36% of Americans feel that their retirement planning is actually on track. And what's worse, a quarter of adults have no retirement savings at all. Zero.
And when wages for these jobs remain stagnant, when you couple that with inflation, it makes it extremely hard. And then suddenly you have millions of retirement age people in this country on this steady decline, forced to work until their bodies give out. Just on a base level, I think we can all agree that retirement is something everyone should be able to achieve. That's just fair, right? We can agree that's fair, right? But to put it into perspective, a 2017 survey found that over half of all Uber drivers are 65 or older. And that number has likely increased given how brutal the pandemic was and the strain it put on elderly people who needed to work. So some broader context here. A 2019 study found that 20% of people ages 65 or older were in the workforce. And that has doubled since 1985. That's over 10 million retirement age people who are still working. And get ready for this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics expects the percent of people ages 75 and older who are in the workforce to increase by 96.5% by 2030. That should sound alarm bells for everyone.
The studies, and it is getting to be a crisis in this country. We have roughly 45 million Americans that are going to retire in the next 10 years, and the median savings is $120,000, which would equate to $1,000 a month over a 15-year period.
So what does this have to do with Congress? Well, there's a lot of parallels between an increasingly older workforce and Congress. In the workforce, boomers are holding on to jobs much longer, which is inhibiting upward mobility for younger generations. This leads to slower generational wealth accumulation, it makes it harder for younger people to become homeowners, and ultimately leads to more transient workers as people will just jump around from employer to employer until they find a place where they can actually advance. And ironically, this is something that boomers use to criticize younger people, that they're not loyal to their employers. And then boomers in Congress cling to power as long as they can, which results in, them destroying the planet and ruining everything that we hold dear in this life. But hey, they won't be around to see the consequences. But at least their kids and grandkids will be able to inherit more money as a result. Maybe they'll get a post office named after them for their lifetime of public service. So what can be done? In the immediate term, we need to protect Social Security. And if you're young, you might not care about this, but you should. Because right now, Social Security is expected to run out of money by 2033. And projections for insolvency get earlier and earlier with every passing year. There's a ton of people in Congress and in the corporate world who want that. Because what that means is younger people who weren't born into wealth or don't have a sufficient retirement will then be forced to work for the rest of their lives. That's pretty bleak.